Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tom Time, episode 14. Today, I want to talk about something that has been on my mind for quite a while: what the West can learn from Asia. Agility, change, and determination. This is especially pressing after my recent trip to Shenzhen, China last week, often referred as the Silicon Valley of the East. So let's dive right into what we can learn from countries like South Korea, Singapore, Vietnam, China, and Malaysia when it comes to some of the most important factors driving success in times of AI, like agility, change, and determination. Let's start with the journey. Until the early 1990s, Shenzhen was essentially a fishing village. Now let's fast forward roughly 30 years to today. It's a mega city of over 17 million people and part of the what's called Greater Bay Area, home to 70 plus million people. Shenzhen is a global manufacturing powerhouse producing a majority of the world's electronics and hardware components, and some estimates even suggest that 95% of the global electronics supply chains are centered from or on products from this region. That's absolutely mind-boggling. Now think about that in transformation. It's roughly one generation, one city, one mindset. That level of speed and scale is not accidental, it's the result of intentional choices. Now, as the CEO of Transforming.legal, I have the privilege of working with clients and partners across these regions: Singapore, China, Indonesia, India, South Korea, and in the West, Germany, the United States, and the UK. And what I see are primarily two things. Digital transformation is a universal challenge. However, the way it is being approached differs significantly. So, in today's Tom Time, I want to share 5 elements where I believe Asia largely has an edge over the West and what the West can learn from it. So, let's get started with those 5 criteria. Number one, government support. Number two, educational systems. Number three, entrepreneurship. Number four, infrastructure. And last but not least, the overall mindset. Let's start with number one, governmental support. Now, I am not here to compare political systems. That's not my point. But what I do observe in many Asian countries is clear long-term planning, pragmatic decision making, relentless execution, and actually more walk than talk. Take China's special economic zones, Shenzhen being one of the prime examples here, or Singapore's national digital strategies. Governments in Asia are actively enabling massive innovation centers and ecosystems. In contrast, many Western countries, they see decision making is very slow, federal systems can fragment execution, and policy cycles often follow election cycles. And I see politicians have less business acumen there. And the result is less consistency, actually less speed. And in a world driven by AI and exponential technology, speed and development pace, this matters. Number two, execution in education. In many Asian societies, teachers are highly respected. Students' discipline and perseverance are the norm, and academic efforts are culturally reinforced. For example, in the PISA global education rankings, countries like Singapore, South Korea, or China consistently rank among the top performers. Now, contrast this with parts of the Western world where we see teacher shortages, fairly high burnout rates, declining performance levels in students in some regions, and perhaps most importantly, a lack of consistent discipline, determination, and standards. But if we want to thrive in an AI data driven world, we need strong educational foundations. And right now, those foundations are much stronger in many parts of Asia. Criteria number three, entrepreneurship. In Asia, being an entrepreneur is celebrated. There is a strong cultural drive to build something, to adapt to change. to survive challenges and to grow in an ecosystem that is actually not very stable. In China alone, you see millions of startups and a hyper competitive environment that forces rapid iteration. Companies like BYD, DJI, ByteDance, or Ping An are less than 30 years old and global leaders. In Southeast Asia, unicorns like Grab, Gojek, Tokopedia also emerged in record time. Now, to be fair, the United States is still the global leader in entrepreneurship, especially also with its very strong venture capital ecosystem. But in parts of Europe, entrepreneurship is often seen as an elite thing or very risky. Failure is stigmatized. And that different mindset matters a lot because transformation requires people who are willing to take risks, who challenge the status quo, and who move fast. And sometimes we say fail fast and move on again. Number four, infrastructure and investments therein. Let's talk about the physical and the digital backbones. In countries like China, Singapore, Japan, or South Korea, but you can also take Malaysia, for example, there is a lot of investment into infrastructure. We see it in high-speed rails. We see it in airports. We see it in massive bridges, in smart cities, or when it comes to technology, in data centers or very, very robust 5G networks. Let's take trains. China alone has built over 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail tracks, more than the rest of the world combined. And if we again compare this to parts of the United States or Europe, particularly Western Europe, what do we see? We see bridges are aging, highways are deteriorating, connectivity gaps in digital communication still exist. Infrastructure, however, is not just convenience, it is productivity, it is efficiency, and it is pure economic growth. And in the age of AI, it is also a competitive advantage. Now, let's turn to number five, perhaps the biggest and actually to me the most important, overall mindset. One of the reasons why you find me more in Asia than in Europe or the United States these days is exactly this. Many Asian economies have experienced rapid wealth creation in just one or maximum two generations. That creates even higher aspirations, higher ambitions to lead, and a willingness to change fast. GDP growth in many Asian countries is significantly higher than in the West. And here's the key difference. In Asia, growth often translates into very visible improvements in the daily lives of people. In the West, growth, however, often translates into higher savings and slightly more stability. This leads to something subtle but very powerful: complacency versus urgency. In parts of the Western world, there is comfort, there is stability, but unfortunately, also a certain level of inertia coming with this. All of these are enemies of transformation. And what's the takeaway here? This is not about me saying one region is better than the other. It's simply about learning from each other. Because here is the reality. Over half of the world's population nowadays lives in Asia. And many of these societies are fully committed to winning the AI-driven future with heart, with ambition, and with determination. For the Western world, this means being much more open to change, rethinking how we work and how we live, letting go of outdated structures and accepting that the old world that we all know is gone. I understand it feels uncomfortable and no one voluntarily gives up anything. To many, it feels like a step backwards. And I don't want to argue here. In some respect, it may actually be that way. However, in reality, it is a necessary step forward to maintain at least our current levels of wealth and prosperity in the Western world and to not lose many of the privileges and achievements finance from the commercial models of the past. Transformation is not optional anymore, even though some may say, well, I still can keep things largely under control and stable for 1 or 2 more years. Seeing what is happening in Asia, I severely doubt that this will work. So if we want to stay competitive in the Western world and in the Eastern world as well, we don't just need better technology, we need the proper mindset for this. And that's what we at Transforming.legal can help you, our clients, to generate with your legal and compliance functions. Now, thank you very much again for staying with me, tuning in, and watching Tom Time. See you next Monday in the next episode of this format. Thank you so much. Take care.